Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have two products, and they are both something's wrong with me. American blended whiskeys, blended at an 80-20 blend ratio, meaning 80% grain spirits, grain neutral spirits, and 20% straight whiskeys. Bankers Club is aged at least 3 years. Four Queens is aged at least 3 years. Oh, let me update my notes. Both are 3-year aged. 3-year aged. Okay, got it. Another thing about these, they're both bottled in New Jersey. Good morning, B Aviation. New Jersey is probably not what comes to mind first when you think of whiskey, but they're bottled in New Jersey, blended and bottled in New Jersey. It doesn't say distilled in New Jersey. It said bottled by Regent Distillers Products Company, Scobeyville, New Jersey. Blended and bottled by Kasser Laird Distilleries Company, Scobeyville, New Jersey. They're both Laird and Company, all right? I don't know how long Four Queens has been on the market. I could not get any trademark information on it. Sorry, could not find out. Four Queens 101. But the website says it's been around so long, it's new again. So that means probably been around a long time. Sun has been up here for over an hour. You must be on Eastern time zone. It's coming up here now. All right, so we got Kasser, Laird's 101, Four Queens 101, and we've got Bankers Club, introduced in 1969 by Kasser Distilling of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, 80 proof. Now, Kasser, we know was around in the 80s at least, because I found an old newspaper article from Philadelphia, one of the Philadelphia newspapers from 1980 something, where Kasser was arguing against, I think, lifting a regulation that would allow more competition, because, of course, they don't want the competition. And they were saying, it would affect public safety, which meant it would affect their kind of joint monopoly with other producers. So if you'll notice, most liquor, beer, and wine producers favor regulation because it boxes other people out of the market. They don't want free enterprise because then they have more competition. So the 3-tier system and all of that, they support it. They support it. It almost makes you wonder if the whole doggone prohibition thing was a scam. That's a deep conspiracy theory that I'm thought of. Because before Prohibition in 1919, there were thousands of brewers, vintners, and liquor, alcohol, liquor producers, spirits producers. And then Prohibition comes along. But then they had exemptions where the big boy companies were allowed to keep producing whiskey for medicinal reasons. So then after Prohibition, most of the mom and pop so-called distillers and breweries were gone. And the big corporations were still around. So you say, but that thing lasted 14 years. Yeah, well, maybe they were willing to tolerate 14 years to squeeze everybody out. But believe me, these companies favor regulations. Bankers Club making another appearance. Good morning, Captain Ron, says Jeep and Foodie. Good morning, Caleb. All right, got to get started. So they're not going to taste that different one to another because they're both 20% straight whiskey, almost invariably bourbon. because it's got to be straight whiskey, meaning aged at least what, 2 years in never before used charred oak. Bourbon is so common in America that you would have to imagine it's going to be straight bourbon, you know. And where is it from? This we don't know. We know it ain't from New Jersey because it does. Neither bottle says distilled in New Jersey. And if you look at their own website, just look at the Laird and Company website, they'll tell you they don't have a distillery in New Jersey. It's a headquarters and it's a blending and aging and bottling plant. They blend spirits there to get certain flavors. They age them there in a big, you know, rick house, you know, with the barrels, and they bottle them there. Their distillery is down in Virginia where they distill Applejack, which is apple brandy. So all the gin, all the vodka, all the brandy, all the bourbon, they have straight bourbon, all the blended is coming from somewhere else. You say, you mean maybe Midwest grain products? Maybe so. They don't make a state-specific designation. They just say American blended whiskey. That's all you got to say. American blended whiskey, meaning what? It comes from somewhere in America. Whiskey or blend. That's all that's required. Now, if you say Kentucky blended whiskey, it has to be distilled in Kentucky. Well, I mean, it's common sense, but that's extra fine American blended. All right, let's talk about price. This was purchased at Martin Wine Cellar in Metairie, Louisiana. $11.99 for $7.50. $11.99, $7.50. This was purchased at Total Wine and More in Metairie, Louisiana. And they're both on Veterans Boulevard. And this was $13.99 for this big $1,750. So I paid $2 more and I got an extra 1,000 milliliters. In the beautiful plastic bottle. Nothing like the thud of plastic, right? But that's only 80 proof. This is 101. So yeah, you're going to pay more to get more generally. Is it going to be worth it? I think so, because the 101 is unique. And then if you look at the website for 4Q, Four Queens, they discuss how people in Eastern Pennsylvania use this to make boilo during Christmas time. Boilo. You can read recipes for boilo. There's no official recipe for boilo because people make it. It's like a home recipe, and people have their own way of doing it. I know how to make boilo, and it's like andouille, or in Louisiana andouille. Everybody got their own way to make it. You know, I know how to make real andouille sausage in my smokehouse. Or hog's head cheese, everybody got their own way of doing it, you know. And they'll say, this guy doesn't use enough green onions, or he uses too many green onions. You know, they use too many green onions or whatever. My grandfather made hog's head cheese, and he did a great job. Homemade, you know, and it was great. Wasn't smokehouse type. He didn't have a smokehouse, but he also made cherry bounce. He had cherry trees. I don't know how he got all these little cherries off the trees, but there was some way he could shake them or something. I don't know, but he had buckets and buckets of these little bitty tiny black cherries. The trees are still there, so, but he would make cherry bounce, and he had these certain like tie down pressure cooker like things, you know, like you tie the top down with twist. It was like a screw cap, and he would keep it in there for like 6 months. Or a year. I can't remember how long he'd age it. Then he'd serve it to people, strain it, and serve what he called cherry bounce. But he told me, go to Katz and Bestoff. That was an old drugstore that sold alcohol, but it got bought out by Rite Aid, who does sell alcohol in Louisiana. He said, go buy this vodka. So it was like 2 handles like that of it was probably Taka vodka. Because cheap, you know, Louisiana Crown Rust, but it was probably Taka. And he dumped it in there. Then the sugar scoops, all the black cherries that he had washed, and then tied it down, screwed it down, and just let it set. And the cherry bounce was very good. Now, other people might have said, well, you didn't make it right, Pie, because his nickname was Pie. You didn't make it right. Well, that's the way I make it. But anyway, everybody liked his cherry bomb. All right. Do regulators check whether it was distilled in the U.S.? They do check, and you better not get caught lying. I just saw something on the news saying about 75% of the alcohol during Prohibition came over via Detroit. Probably so. I'm sure Canada, the Bahamas, and Mexico loved Prohibition. They were making a killing off of it. They probably hated to see it go. They had so many tourists going to Mexico during Prohibition, you know, just walking across the bridge. They come crawling back, you know, crawling back, or they'd have to drag them back. Was waiting on this Four Queens. Okay, G and JK, here we go. Now, appearance. Oh, well, they're both gold, but I think this one is more amber, but I don't know which is which either, because I already lost track of which is which. That's a good thing. Good thing, good thing, good thing. Four Queens. Man, I was walking down Bourbon Street and I saw 6 queens. Anyway, oh, don't say too much. I won't. Holly was from Miami, FLA. All right, hitchhike her way across the USA. People tell me, you're so right-wing that you're left-wing. I'm so sane that I'm insane, you know what I mean? I'm so sane that I'm insane. Well, that smells pretty standard. You say, what does it smell like? Weezer. What does it smell like? Stymie. It smells like victory. No, it smells like fermented corn grits. Musty corn grits. I saw them unloading all this corn from a truck at Barton 1792 distillery. They was just pouring it out. I still had the video posted on YouTube, you know, see the corn pouring out. Just filling that hole. Driving that train. All right. This smells the same. Is it a little stronger? Oh, perhaps. Musty corn grits. Yes, I have a bag of that. You want to see it? Here's what corn grits look like. Whew. Glad that Tabasco bottle didn't break. Should have had the light on. This is called Dixie Lily. Oh, no, you can't call it Dixie. It reminds me of the Old South. I'm triggered. But see, me, I'm triggered to wear gray. See, I'm wearing gray. You say that means something. It's just a regular gray shirt, okay? With Blue Moon on it. But that's also in gray. Oh, no. Enriched yellow corn grits, gluten-free. Well, duh, it's not wheat. Dixie Lily Tomlin. This 1 pound and 4 ounce bag was pretty cheap at Walmart. And it's from Saraland, Alabama. Dixie Lily Foods. Enriched yellow corn grits. That's the ingredients. Enriched yellow corn grits. Niacin, reduced iron, thiamine, mononitrate, and riboflavin. And those are things you do want to have, as we all know. So there we go. They take this stuff And they make bourbon out of it. Don't you know that? Good review. Good. Oh, Beer Hounds Beer Reviews. Good morning, Ronald. Good morning to you. Does it taste like cornbread? Yeah, basically. So without the sugar, because the sugar is converted into alcohol. So could you go to the store and buy a bag of grits and make bourbon? Yes. There was one company, I can't remember, during Prohibition, and they were selling products, and they were like, do not take this product and follow this procedure. And they went through all these steps, because then you would be making grain alcohol, and that's illegal to do. So if you buy with this, do not follow these steps, because we don't want you breaking the law. I think the company got in trouble with the U.S. government, because the U.S. government was like, you're telling people what to do. You're telling people what to do, how to make moonshine. And they're like, no, we're telling them what not to do. We're telling them not to follow these steps, because then it would be moonshine. Well, that's illegal. We don't want them to do that. We want them to buy this for some other reason. All right. All right. All right. No. Whatever you do, do not follow the provided instructions. Right. That was the whole game. Do not throw me in that briar patch. So you like yellow corn grits? You like the smell of yellow corn? Then you like this. These smell like bourbon, but in a watered down sense. You understand? It's like everything you always wanted to smell in bourbon and less. Less char, less oak, less corn, less. It's just faint. Now, some people might like that. They might say, well, I don't like bourbon. It's too strong. It's too harsh, too bold, too this, too that. This might be more appealing to you. This Warfield Brewery Feisty Wee number 5840 IPA is good. I'm glad to hear that. I had 3 cups of coffee this morning. Here we go. Cheers to you all. Da, 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 da. Cheers to Buffy. All right. Well, it's 80% grain neutral spirits, which is what? Invariably corn. Doesn't have to be corn. They could use rice, barley, oats, any kind of grain. They distill it and they make a neutral spirit. You say it's vodka. No. That's what vodka is made from, generally, but not exclusively. And remember, vodka is like 5 times distilled. This is just distilled and it's raw grain spirit. Vodka is like distilled and then distilled and then distilled and then distilled and then distilled. And then they take that distillate and they filter it through charcoal. They let it drip through charcoal 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So it's a much more purified and clean thing. Hey, clean. So. And you can make vodka from potatoes. They got potato vodka right there at Walmart. You can make vodka from grapes. You ever heard of Ciroc? That's grape vodka. Grape vodka. That is grape vodka. It is not made from grain. So remember, so we got 80% grain spirits made from corn, invariably, because it's the cheapest grain in America. And then you're blending it with bourbon. That's almost all corn. So we basically dealing with this. We basically dealing with corn. In a bottle. Now I was on the tour, and the man that was with me on the tour, he wasn't with me. He just was on the tour with me. I didn't know who this guy was. He says, well, how did they get it down to 80 proof from 190? The girl said, well, they just add tap water to it. He said, really? She said, yeah, it's like turning on a faucet, and they got a equipment, gauges, and they monitor it. Ooh, it's down to 80 proof. Stop. And then there you go. Now here they bring this down to 101. She said, sounds complicated, but it isn't really. And then she brought us to this column still. She said, we used to make vodka here in Bardstown, vodka in this big column still. She said, but it's not working anymore because we just get it from somebody else. It's cheaper that way. I said, do y'all get it from Midwest Grain Products in Indiana? And she looked at me and she said, actually, we do. That's where it comes from, across the river in Indiana. I said, huh. She knew a lot about distilling. And I asked her a question. I said, can I ask you a question? She said, yeah. I said, do you have a relative that works here? She said, yes, my uncle does. All those tour guides, they all got a father or an uncle that works at Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch or something like that. Everyone I ever asked, do you have a relative that works here? Well, my father's been working here since 1991. Whatever. I say, Ronald, you are a legend in my own mind. Probably Lincoln Clay. Lincoln Clay. Hello, Lincoln. Could you just pour table sugar in there and use that in the process? I believe you could. All right. Got fermentables. All right. The flavor is the same. It's like basic. It tastes fine. Nobody's drinking this neat, right? They're buying this stuff, mixing it with Sprite or Mr. Pibb. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't make Mr. Pibb anymore. They make Pibb Extra. I remember in 1972 when they had something called Peppo. It was in a can like this, but I mean, it was a soft drink can, but it was like a pink can and it said Peppo. And there was the pull tab, you pull it and come all the way off. We would drink it after church. Like when we get home around noon, 11:30 from church, and my mother would let us drink one can, maybe once a week. Me and my sister, we wanted Peppo. But then in 1974, Peppo disappeared because of a threatened lawsuit. And then it became Mr. Pibb. All of a sudden, Peppo magically became Mr. Pibb. And it tastes the same as Peppo because it was the same thing. But I can remember that, Peppo. I can remember telling my mom, I want Peppo. But Dr. Pepper Company said, ain't no way this is happening. So they said, okay. Coca-Cola said, okay. So vodka is white whiskey, moonshine that has been distilled multiple times. Right. But it doesn't have to be from whiskey. You see, vodka could be made, like I say, from anything. Cucumbers. Like literally, you can make it from cucumbers. Potatoes. Like they do in France at Ciroc with grapes. Whereas grain neutral spirits, listen, grain neutral spirits obviously have to be made from what? Yeah, you got it. Grain. There you go. Canadian blended whiskey, same thing. Scotch blended whiskey, same thing. Irish blended whiskey, same thing. They use a grain neutral base. In Scotland and Ireland, they call it grain whiskey. In Canada, they call it grain whiskey. But if you look on the Black Velvet website, Black Velvet Canadian whiskey, they call it grain neutral spirits. They say we take about 80% grain neutral spirits. Then we blend in blah, blah, blah into it. And then they age it all together 3 years, you see. But this American concoction is not aging the grain spirits at all. They're just taking it, producing it, blending it with the bourbon, and then boom, there you go, putting it in a bottle. So it's going to taste, well, actually it tastes a little stronger. Like it's more like if you drink moonshine, like you say, oh yeah, moonshine, baby. Yeah, me and my uncle, we were drinking moonshine. All right. So that is more of a people from Canada or Ireland or Northern Ireland or Great Britain, they might find this harsh, like, whoa, woof, they might say, oh, wow, cheerio, top of the morning to you, pip, pip, and all that rot. It tastes rather harsh. And you'd say, well, that's America. We're kind of harsh, But there's some sugar sweetness to it also. You say, well, corn is sweet, like sweet corn. There is that. There is that in play. There is that in play. And you would never really confuse it, I don't think, with Canadian whiskey or Irish or Scotch. There's a huge Scottish grain whiskey distillery. And that's what they make. I think it's owned by Doers, and they just make grain alcohol all day, all night. They call it grain whiskey. It's in these column stills. It just, they dump it in the corn from Kansas or Nebraska or Indiana or wherever they get it. And they distilling it raw, and then they blending it with single malt scotch, single malt scotch, single malt scotch, single malt scotch. And there you go, and there you go, and there you go. And then they're aging it 3 years. But that's the key. They got to age it 3 years. Now, American grain alcohol, grain neutral spirits. Here's the funny thing, though. Then I got to do this, finish up. I remember drinking Faygo as a kid. Yeah, Mathern's was selling Faygo until recently, but they replaced it with Big Shot. Well, because see, Big Shot is a New Orleans-based soft drink. Same type thing, tastes the same, but it's Big Shot. Good morning, Ron. And Faygo comes from Detroit, Michigan. Big Shot is a New Orleans brand. Good morning, Ron, says the Dixie Bassman. Now, y'all might get Big Shot in your town. I don't know. These are the kind of products that they're mixing with Big Shot. People coming home from work, they're going to take Bankers Club and they're going to blend it with some Big Shot black cherry cola, and they drink it while they're watching Andy Griffith reruns because they're tired. They just got home from work. You know what I'm saying? They're not contemplating it, making a video for 30 minutes talking about, oh, well, you see, there's all these legal things that you have to consider. They don't do that. That's not. Have you ever had better made chips? No. I've had worse made. You know what I mean? No, I mean. But anyway, I thought these would be a little more differentiated one from another due to the proof 101 versus 80, but I'm not picking that up so much. That's the scary part, because see, the 101 might seem so smooth. You just drink it down and then you go down. You drink it down and then you go down. It's fine to me. I mean, people are like getting a conniption fit talking about it's blended. I want to die. I only drink straight bourbon. Well, okay, good. But they have this compulsion, like they have to go around telling everybody that, I only drink straight bourbon, and it has to be at least $70. Okay, we get it. You vape, we get it. I don't know why you felt the need to tell us that. I don't know. Are you preparing to give us a lecture on the evils of blended American whiskey? Now, me personally, am I a fan of American blended whiskey? Am I a champion of American blended whiskey? Am I holding the torch for American blended whiskey? None of those things. It exists. It's a big selling product. I mean, buy it or don't buy it. What difference? But these people that run around talking about how horrible it is. Oh, it's so bad. Really? Because I'm drinking it. But those are the same people that tell you Budweiser tastes worse than horse urine drained through a dirty sock. Same mentality. You know what I'm talking about. We know those people. Yeah, I think this one might have a little higher proof. Taste, identical. But the body seems a little stronger. So I think this is the Four Queens based on that. But otherwise, no, it's not much difference. So I think this Taste Challenge series is going to be a lot more challenging. Now, when I get to Heaven Hill, no. Heaven Hill, they got some really wretched tasting American blended whiskeys, as I've learned over time. Their stuff is like all like corrupted. You know what I'm saying? Like you taste that and you're like, wow, honeydew melon. I didn't think whiskey was supposed to taste like honeydew melon. Like there's something really aberrant about Heaven Hill's blended. It's like, whoa. So I think I will be able to tell. Now, Sazerac, no, they do some pretty quality stuff. So Sazerac, it's like they try to make sure their blended American whiskey tastes like bourbon. And as we all know, Sazerac's got a truckload of bourbons to sell. So I guess Heaven Hill is just like, man, them old drunks, they'll drink anything. Throw it out there. And it works. So it's a working business model. We get it. You vape. Laughing to tears. I'm more of a Barnaby Jones or Svengali guy when it comes to relaxing after work. When you describe those two types of people, I just about Shot the Crown Royal Black I was sipping out of my nose. Barnaby Jones. My grandpa never missed Barnaby Jones on Sunday night. We only get Faygo at Dollar Tree. Missouri has Shasta. Oh, yeah. I'm very familiar with Shasta. Very familiar. Knee High. All of those old legacy brands that still exist, I guess. All right. So I guess we'd have to say Bankers Club wins because it's way cheaper and it doesn't taste any better or worse. So the drinker you are, the player you smoke. You know what I mean? The drinker you are, the player you smoke. So, oh, it's the Bankers Club. I got it wrong. Couldn't even get it right. Well, there's a lesson. What have we learned today? We've learned that if I do a blind taste test between two Laird's products, one rated at 101 and the other one rated at 80 proof, I can't tell them apart. I can't even feel it. I don't even know. What do you do? Not judge my particular. No, it actually had no effect on me whatsoever, as we can clearly tell. But so anyway, but that's Laird versus Laird. So that's an in-house taste challenge. So what's going to happen when we go up against Heaven Hill? My prediction, it'll be tough, but ultimately I think Laird's is going to win every time because Heaven Hill, it's kind of scary. If you get the Heaven Hill blended whiskey, the one called Heaven Hill Quality House, as they call it now, with the old store placard on it, that one's okay. I guess they'd say, don't put the garbage in the Heaven Hill. Do not feed the dog from the food from the table. You know, but the other stuff, the Kentucky Bow and the T.W. Samuels and the other wretched, they just pour anything in that. They just say, just get rid of it. So there you go. Alternative title, if you can't taste the difference, why pay the difference, is a live demonstration. Yeah, like that was old Carlo Rossi. If you can't taste the difference, why pay the difference? I can't argue with that. You evangelize brandy. The only reason I evangelize brandy is because it seems like a lot of people don't pay any mind to it. And I've talked to so many people and I say, what about brandy? And they tell me, I never tried brandy. And I say, why? There's no particular reason they never tried it. They just never have. They never thought of it. So brandy used to be like, let's say 1979, 42 years ago. Brandy was probably more popular than bourbon and whiskey. And then it faded. And then the bourbon culture got started, I guess, really probably with Blanton's in 1984 with the single barrel thing. So, and then bourbon started getting a foothold. And then with the internet and, you know, internet groups and all, then bourbon became like this big thing. But, you know, when I was a kid in the 70s, bourbon really was kind of a niche product and it was cheap. Like it was considered old Kentucky people drink that. Southern people, you know what I mean? Like poor people in some respects. Wasn't really true because they always made craft bourbons that were super deluxe, but it just wasn't popular. And then, so in the 70s, blended whiskey was more popular. Seagram's VO, Seven Crown, Seagram's Seven Crown. That was what cool people drank. And then the whole thing kind of like changed. So brandy, is brandy making a comeback? I hadn't seen that. The only brandy that's really popular is Hennessy and Hennessy. Well, I was going to say Courvoisier, but is Courvoisier really popular? Hennessy. I'm drinking my Hennessy, herb. So Hennessy is a cognac brandy. And there's a certain like cultural aspect to that. Like I need to get some gold teeth and some change, you heard me? And some flashy clothes, you heard me? And so that they'd be sparkling, you heard me? So and then I could like do certain things, you heard me? So represent myself and my people, you heard me? So but I like Hennessy, you heard me? And I think but that's probably the only brandy, you heard me, that's really popular, you heard me? Now, how many people drinking Hennessy, you heard me? No, you feel me? You catch what I'm saying? You feel me, you dog? You feel me, dog? How many people drinking Hennessy really know it's a brandy? They know cognac, but if you pin people down, say, I notice you're drinking cognac. Oh yeah, I'm drinking Hennessy, you heard me? So you ask them, do you know that cognac is a type of brandy? They'd probably say no. And furthermore, they probably wouldn't care what you're saying because they're not into all that nerdified, geekified liquor hobbyist, line of thinking. Well, you can understand that. Okay, so last comments and we are all right. Alternative title, if you can't. Oh yeah, what brandy would you recommend for trying for the first time? I'll just go cheap and get Paul Masson VS Grand Amber. It's inexpensive. You can find it even for $9.99 a bottle, and there's no off flavors or aromas. Is it world class? No, that's why it's $9.99 a bottle. But it'd be something to try. Now, if you really want to be adventurous or stupid or foolish at the same time, or both, get Hartley VSOP. Oh my gosh, Hartley. You might find that for $7.99. You say $7.99 for a full bottle of brandy. Yep, go to Total Wine and More. But after you drink it, you're gonna find out why it's $7.99. One that's easy to find. Yeah, Hartley or Paul Masson. Well, Walmart doesn't carry Hartley, but Total Wine does. Yeah, I would say just try those. They cheap. No, I wouldn't say try Hartley. Don't try that. Try Paul Masson. Brandy, You're a Fine Girl is still a better song than any rappers could produce, says the Dixie bass man. Yeah, what a good wife she would be. All right, thanks for watching this video production. I'm going to be a sailor. I'm going to go to the coast. I'm going to go to that cafe. I'm going to meet Brandy. We're going to get married. We're going to have children. We're going to do that.